Please welcome to the stage Natalie Salas.
Hello, everyone. Has everyone had time to get their lunch? Because I think to be able to participate in an amazing debate, you need food in your stomach. So please come. I'm sure lots of people will come. So welcome, everyone, to the Pixel debate. We are going to be discussing a really important motion. Design belongs in the boardroom, and it really cuts at the center of a lot of tension that is being spoken about this topic in the design community. So what is the board? You know, it discusses vision, strategy, and why should design even be there? Should it actually be in a system where it's actually meant to challenge? Okay, and some people also say, what type of board are we talking about? Are we talking about C-suite? Are we talking about governance? And so this debate is going to be exactly talking about this specific debate and tension. Okay, and so we have two amazing debaters who have the courage to think publicly about this debate. For the motion, let me introduce you to Antonia Iadarola from JP Morgan Chase, VP of User Experience and Service Design. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hello.
Take care. You can stand there. And against the motion, we have Jamin Hegeman, Executive Partner of Harmonic Design. A round of applause. Now, very quickly, let me explain to you the format, okay? If you go on Ring Central, this is super important. This is where your engagement and your interaction counts. If you go on Ring Central, you'll be able to see a poll, because this gives you the opportunity to vote on where you stand on the motion now. So, without even hearing anything, please cast your vote. I'm going to give you a minute or so to go in and place your vote. Also, those that are actually on hybrid, please go ahead and vote. There is also a Q&A section, because we will have the opportunity to answer some questions where we can challenge the debaters even more. Each debater is going to have 4 minutes to make their opening statement, where they have to show clarity under timed pressure. And then, after those opening statements, we are going to have a live sparring segment where both of them will start with challenging each other, a kind of counter argument with one another. And that's where the friction and the tension is going to really take place. And then we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A. At the end, you will have the opportunity to vote again. And it's not going to be the votes, whoever has the highest votes. It's actually going to be the swing, the vote swing, who actually changed minds the most. Okay, are we ready? Great. So for the motion, let's invite Antonio to make his opening statement. You have 4 minutes.
All right,
Can we put the timer on, if that's possible? Go to the center.
Yep. Oh. All right, I have 4 minutes. Should I come down here?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, this week, DeepSeek, the competitor of ChatGPT, just surpassed ChatGPT in the US market for downloads. Now is the most downloaded chat box on the planet. And as a consequence of that, the US market freaked out. NVIDIA and other companies lost 70% of their revenue. I think NVIDIA went down 600 billion, the lowest, like the kind of craziest dump into the company value ever in history. So that's just to say that, you know, the DeepSeek just has a different user experience. It's open source, and it was downloaded to be a model where user could more transparently see the kind of thinking process about around the AI. It's just an example. It's just an example of how volatile things are in the current market, and how design can really affect that volatility and kind of ensure that companies are more current on the market. I think the motion of the idea of having design leadership on design leadership, it's really like a no-brainer. I think it comes down to like three elements: metrics, governance, and representation. When design leaders are on the boardroom and they really have executive conversations, they really kind of bring this human-centric to how we measure things. And we know that otherwise, metrics tend to be very kind of like short-term, execution-driven, obviously revenue-oriented, and the user experience aspect of it really brings more stability and kind of like consider those factors that really made that DeepSeek phenomena happen. The second part is governance, and you need a CDO or at least kind of like a design leadership group to really organize design, to really create a territory for design to thrive, not be misunderstood, possibly kind of like grow in a healthy environment where design operations are ensured, design research is kind of like meets a favorable set of stakeholders. So really governance and supporting that, it's really important, and design leadership does that. And the last piece is around representation. And I can't believe I'm here just, advocating for design being in the boardroom where we've been really working very hard, all of us, for the last 20 years, really supporting design to have this kind of strategic conversation within the organization. So representation, bringing in the voice of the customer, but also bringing in the voice of designers and all stakeholders, to create an environment that is favorable for collaboration is really what design leaders would do in the boardroom. So it's not just about creativity. It's not just about creating amazing experiences. It's really supporting shareholders' value and ensuring that design tackle the volatility and uncertainty of the world we are living on and designing services on. So vote for this motion. I have 5 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Antonio. Yeah. And now against the motion, Jamin.
Design should not be or does not belong in the boardroom. Just like a penguin does not belong in the desert. Design is about collaboration, empathy, experimentation, creativity, imagination, beauty, prototyping. These are not words that we associate with the boardroom. Boardroom, yes, metrics, governance, these are important things. I'm not saying that design shouldn't care about them. But the boardroom was created to serve an industrial model. It's command and control, it's management, it's efficiency. It was not designed for design. Yet we find ourselves gravitating to this, elevating up. We have leaders in positions of power, but these leaders, all the ones I know, complain that as they go higher, they get farther away from design. They're not doing the work anymore. They're managing, they're representing. They're explaining metrics, they're trying to prove their value. They're taking on business leadership, as we heard from some of the speakers earlier. They're getting away from themselves as designer and the unique value that design has, and they're changing into something else. Does that sound like belonging to you? When you have to change who you are or what you do in order to belong in the boardroom? Better to have the boardroom come into design. And we heard this earlier today in various forms. Bring them into our process. Be open. Don't be precious with what we do. We don't have to make it perfect. Invite them in. That's where you get true understanding. Yes, you might argue, oh, we need people there to represent us and explain this stuff. But no, we heard the value today of design is when we deliver outcomes, when we show the impact. You don't do this in the boardroom. That's not where design really happens. And you can't explain to other people what design is just by arguing about it and being there. We heard that today as well. Like the title doesn't give you value. And people don't get design just by being there. That's why they have to come out and do it with you. When they see it, when they experience it, that's when you get real understanding. When you show impact and deliver value, that's where you get appreciation. So the future of design and what we do and what we accomplish is not going to be decided by the boardroom or who's in it. It will be defined by the people, you, who are leading design. Well, I assume many don't have representation in the boardroom and yet are still delivering value, are still here, are still growing, are still thriving. So that penguin, don't leave him in the desert. Vote no. Design does not belong in the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamin. Now, I want to initiate a question to both of you, and then I'll let both of you start your counter arguments. So, if innovation starts at the board, how can design not be there? And I'll start with Jamin, and then Antonio, you can counter argue.
Well, maybe my first argument against is innovation doesn't start at the board. I'd say that's where innovation dies. Definitely doesn't thrive there. So it's hard to argue against that. I'd say where innovation happens is the connectivity between insight, capabilities, the different disciplines, the different skills of which design is one, coming together to solve real problems. The types of problems that we typically define as being innovative or we want to be innovative are not the same types of problems that the board is focused on, which is shareholder value. You don't want to get innovative with that. Metrics, governance, management.
Antonio?
Yeah, I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding in all these, and I agree with what my very friendly opponent is saying about innovation. But we're not talking about doing design in the boardroom. We're talking about the boardroom as a coordination system, or as a kind of a body of leaders that facilitate design to thrive. And so there is resourcing involved. It's really like, think about sport. It's really like they are the coaches, and then they just create the right environment to kind of foster talents that do the work on the ground. And let's face reality. As designers, we use a lot of time to come up with solutions. We take our time to reflect on all user-centric analysis and research we do. We need to prototype and test different solutions, so we technically got burn time and resources into sacrificial prototypes that might fail, but we learn from it. So we need support from a leadership level to do all that and have the appropriate time and space and serenity to really deliver.
Jamin?
Yeah, so what came first, leadership of design or design delivering value? I feel like the reason we have people that may have even elevated into that we then argue are creating the space for us to do the design work is because we did the design work that showed value in the first place. So I don't buy the argument that we need these people to create the space for us. As again, we've heard through several of the speakers this morning, we can create the space ourselves. We have our own power and don't wait for permission, we heard, to show that value, to invite people in, to demonstrate what you can do to solve a problem. That's the real way that we get space, is if we're really understanding the problem, both from the customer and the business empathy point of view, and delivering value. That gives you permission to do more of that work, which ultimately is why we have designers in leadership positions now.
Do I go on,
Yeah.
on the same path? I mean, we have design leadership. I mean, you're saying we don't. You're saying that we didn't have design leadership first. Well, the design didn't belong to enterprise to start with. I mean, design was applied to social areas that were not large organizations. So the matter of scale is very crucial in this conversation. As we started entering the world of business, then our first counterpart or our first really like group that supported design was in fact leadership. But not just that. I think what you are saying is very valuable. I think as we had example of like very large organizations that need to kind of coordinate functions across multiple products, multiple areas, multiple geographical location, then obviously you start kind of layering the capacity of design and the object of design from like creating product and services to creating kind of policies and kind of like wider framework for all these capacity the organization has to coordinate at the scale they are. So I think it's a healthy relationship, and I would argue that it's not true that we ever did design without leaders valuing the work we do.
I mean, I don't disagree that we want leaders to value the work. I'm just saying those leaders don't necessarily, I mean, we want all leaders, regardless of whether designers, not to value the work. I would also say that another thing I think about in terms of making the space is like, you don't need a designer to make that space. Like to your point, if you're showing value and leaders see that, they will make the space for you, regardless of whether they're a design leader or not. And in many cases, I'm assuming, for many of you out there, your leadership chain probably doesn't go all the way up to a designer reporting to the CEO. You're probably reporting to some other function, or maybe even the head of design for you is not a designer. It doesn't come from a design background. But they're still doing that job of making the space and doing the things that leaders do, yes. And that's the job of leadership.
Let me ask a question here to wrap up this section. We were talking about different tables. As designers, we invented the table. But what type of table are we talking about here? Because I think people may not, everyone will have a different perspective of this. We need to have a seat at the table. But what type of table? Jamin?
When I hear seat at the table, I think we're thinking of the very top, and to use the example of Chase right before, some of the seats at the table that people sat in were heads of different business units, which is a likely way to structure an organization. For design to have a seat at the table, first of all, like, you don't need to be at that table to have whatever that table is, which is the top of the organization. You don't need to be there. I think having a role in a cross-functional team and being valued for your impact, that is a metaphorical seat at the table, but it doesn't have to have a certain hierarchy.
Yeah, I mean, I think those tables are also the tables where you decide in what way to invest in design in terms of like what.
Tell me the table. You tell me the table. Where do you see?
Where do I see the table?
Yeah, which table are we talking about from your side?
I mean, the C-suite table. I mean, it's like the.
So we're talking the C-suite.
Well, we're talking about that, and we're talking about like, you know, the kind of strategic decision of investing in a department that kind of includes a mix of expertise all around strategic design, service design, UX design. Of course, like now, like nothing is not multidisciplinary. And so how do you kind of like nurture that type of department at the practical level? Like, you know, what type of talents do you hire? What type of expertise you try to bring in, and how you build resources internally for those career paths to exist. So that's the table, one of the table. And then the other table is what Jamin was referring to, like how those business units are organized. I mean, the work around governance is design work. This is not like management deciding how design would work, which they might have an understanding of. But of course, if you are like a mature designer, seasoned designer, then you would understand better what sensibility you need to apply to that coordination.
Jamin, do you have a last counter argument?
For tables?
In general, to this topic.
The last counter argument? I mean, my take is it doesn't matter what level of hierarchy you are. Design has a unique value, and we should value that and deliver via our unique skills and not try to change ourselves too much. Yes, understand the business, but you don't have to become the business. And the more that you do, you lose touch with the skills that made you a designer in the first place. So rather than chasing that perceived power or authority for that seat at the table, create your own authority and power and permission by doing great design work, delivering impact, and showing outcomes.
Thank you. Thank you. So now is your time to vote again. After listening to Antonio and Jamin, have you had time to think about whether you've shifted your mind? Is what Jamin's saying actually making sense? Let's stop having FOMO and be confident of our own craft. Just because we're not at that particular seat at the table doesn't mean we're not worth anything. So have a think about it. You've got the time now to vote. So I'm going to, okay. Unfortunately, I wish I could show the results here, so I'm going to tell you. This is very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So, to give you the stats, okay, the pre-debate vote was 78% were for the motion. They agreed that design belongs in the boardroom. Okay, post-debate, only 56, 57, oh, we still got some votes in, 58%, but 42% have changed their mind. Okay, now it's very close. But in terms of the swing vote, I can announce the winner, that it's against the motion, and Jamin wins this debate.
done. Well done. I don't know how you did it, but that's great.
So thank you, everybody, for thinking. And that's important. And for watching these amazing debaters thinking publicly, thinking out loud, which we don't necessarily have the opportunity to do these days. And this is the whole point of why we're doing this at Pixel Debate. So thank you for being part of this. Oh, I forgot that there were some questions, but we don't have any. Let me see. There wasn't any. Clearly, it all seems very clear what everyone was saying. Let me double check on Ring Central. But I think we don't have any questions, and we're actually on time. So thank you very much once again. A round of applause.
Thank you, guys.